Hello. Today we will review adding an employee to the system. To add a new employee to the system, select Management, Employee. On the second authorization screen, enter in your code or press your fingerprint to the reader on the side of the station in order to access this part of the system. If you have the correct securities, you should be allowed to enter, and down at the bottom you can select New in order to start entering a new employee. On this screen, you would basically put in the employee's first and last name and at least a login ID. That is the only requirement in order to be able to add an employee. Most other information is going to be optional, and you'll know the difference based on the red asterisk at the very end. So here I've added driver test. I'm going to put in the year that they were born as 2000. The date of birth is normally important to employers who want to keep track of any minors that they might have in accordance to any labor laws. You can enter the Social Security number, and only the last 4 digits will remain visible, and the rest of the information will be encrypted in the system, as well as the login ID that the employee is going to use, which is a requirement until you get to the end, and you're also given the option to register a fingerprint. So I'm going to go ahead and enter 3333 for this driver. Down here, there is a security level that is set. The default is normally going to be 9, and the way the security levels work in Revention is that the security level determines which employees you can see under the Management Employee screen. For instance, 9 is the very last security level, and it is the lowest. The highest security level in the system is 0. So if an employee is marked as a 7, for instance, they won't be able to see any other employee that's a 7 or higher, such as the 0, 1, or 2. However, they will be able to see any employee that's an 8 or 9 to be able to edit their labor rates or their security. And if you are a 0, then you'll be able to see everyone in the system, whether they're a 1 or another 0. So I'm going to leave it at 9. Of course, you can enter the higher date, and this can you can also enter the higher date, and you can tell the system whether or not time clock is required. Quite often, the time clock is not required for managers who are salaried or owners, so that they don't affect the labor percentages on any of the reports. But for most employees, such as a driver or server, before they can access the system and go forward, upon logging into the system for the first time at the beginning of the day, they'll be asked to clock in. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Next. All of this information is optional as well. The 2 fields that I will point out that might be important to have this information, specifically for a driver, because Revention does have a feature using the Google Maps that allows you to send the map to the drivers, is having a cell phone with the correct domain name as well as an email address so that those maps can be sent to the driver. So that information can be entered here in those 2 fields. I'm going to go ahead and hit Next. On the next screen, you can go ahead and select the driver's labor type and manually set their labor rate. Once you've manually set the labor rate, you basically hit Finish. Once you've hit Finish, this is where the system will allow you to register a fingerprint for the employee, thereby adding an extra layer of security, because now you can set the system where they can't share codes between employees. Instead, by having a fingerprint, the person has to be physically present in order to access the system using their name. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Yes. Once it goes into this screen, you can register the employee's fingerprint by having them place it on the reader several times in succession in order to register that finger as the digit that's going to be used to access the system. And once a fingerprint has been entered, then you have manually entered your employee. Keep in mind that you can go back at any time and edit an employee to add any information that wasn't put in at the time of being added.